us. The Emirates, quickly summing that up, obviously you'll have seen it, 4-1, hope you've seen it live. I've gone over the game itself. For me, that was a performance that could have graced any managerial or any ownership era in Newcastle United's recent history. If that was a Steve Bruce performance, you wouldn't have batted an eyelid. It was just one of those. If that was in a Mike Ashley era, it would have just been par for the course. This is a football club, in my opinion, with upward ambitions, and it's going backwards. It's in reverse. I don't think you can go as fast as Newcastle United or accelerating backwards in reverse. I don't think you can do it. Thoughts on that one, lads? Before I get too negative and get myself cancelled. Dom?
It felt almost inevitable, which is the biggest disappointment because of as the lights go off.
Good job. Oh, look at this.
Whoa,
that's nice.
The only good decision made today was getting that light, I think. But yeah,
it's getting a bit ravey in here.
But yeah, on the game itself, I think it was. You look back at the past few weeks, the goals Newcastle have been conceded to, let's be honest, bang average Premier League teams. Arsenal, who were the most potent Premier League team heading into this game, you would expect them to tear Newcastle to shreds, and that's exactly what happened. Newcastle had a week on the training ground to try and put things right after the sort of poor show against Bournemouth defensively particularly, and that just wasn't addressed. Eddie Howe tried to make changes, brought Tino Livramento in for Dan Burn, something we've probably all called out for. Loris Karius comes in.
I think he was all right, apart from the fourth goal, to be honest.
Did an okay job, but obviously conceding 4 goals. And defensively, it's just the same old issues, not protected by the midfield enough. Eddie Howe said it's a collective effort, and I think that's spot on. It is, and the midfield aren't doing enough, defence aren't doing enough, and like you say, this performance could have come at any point in Newcastle's Premier League sort of era. But we've said that one too many times recently. We said that on our last visit to North London, 4-1 against Tottenham Hotspur. You say that against Nottingham Forest, Liverpool.
They were crap at Forest and they won. And we said that in the video after the game.
Yeah.
So that's
home and away.
And everyone's talking about recent form, and you look at it and say, oh, well, they were unbeaten in 5 and this, that and the other. Come on, let's not. This is 2 home draws against Luton and Bournemouth. An awful performance at Forest where they scraped a win, which was a good win, by the way, and an FA Cup game against a half-baked Fulham team, who literally brought all their main players off the bench. I mean, what was it? It was.
I love that.
It was though. And this is the thing, like you mentioned, I want to go before cup you, Jordan. I just want to mention something you said there about training. Are Newcastle United getting better for having a full week of training? Because they just seem to be getting worse for me.
No.
They were better when they had 3 games a week and didn't train.
You look at the form table when Newcastle were playing 3 games a week, when they were deep in the Champions League. Newcastle were actually the informed team in the Premier League during the Champions League fixture bracket.
Do your stat thing.
What's my stat thing?
The form since.
Well, yeah, Newcastle, since Nick Pope got injured, since that win against Manchester United, were the informed team in the Premier League. They were 5th in the Premier League, 2 points off the Champions League places. Since that game, if the Premier League season had started on the day after that Man U game, Newcastle would be 16th, would have the worst defensive record in the Premier League. So
where's all the happy clappers and the alarm bells should be going off in everybody's head now that this Newcastle United team is performing like a team fighting relegation in terms of results since early December? Alarm bells should be going. Are there alarm bells going off in your head, Jordan?
Now you said that. Now you spelled it out and you've talked about alarm bells. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's relegation form.
It is.
It's from December onwards. Newcastle have been very, very poor, and that's putting it lightly. I was trying to think of a word there if I was going too hard.
Did you do a stat thing as well about the most goals conceded?
So they've conceded 20 goals this calendar year, which is the most in the Premier League by something like 5 or 6, I think.
Only the bottom 3, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, have conceded more goals than Newcastle United. They've conceded 45 goals this season. They're almost conceding 2 goals per game. It's incredible.
No, it is, and I think in recent weeks, some people have pointed. We've always looked at it as Eddie Howe's sort of problem, but a lot of people have pointed Dan Burn as the problem in that back line. Taking Dan Burn out of that team today, actually shows that he isn't a problem, and is very much Eddie Howe problem in terms of how Newcastle United set up defensively. Don't get us wrong, I don't think Bukayo Saka knocked the ball past Team Livramento. I don't think he's even capable of doing that, because Saka's more of a player that cuts inside. But I just think there wasn't much change in that back line. Newcastle was still very, very open. It was Arsenal attack after attack, which goes back to the midfield. The midfield don't offer enough protection at all. It is a collective problem and it needs addressing, and we've always said, has Eddie Howe got the answers? And this defensive form has been going on for a while now, and they're still setting up the same way. How do you change it? You talk about time on the training pitch, they've actually got worse. Do you change formation, which Eddie Howe, it's been rumoured that he's going to do it, still hasn't done it. I think if you're going to go to a 5 at the back, I think the deal actually would have been ideal to try and do it.
I wanted to see them compact today, compact and frustrate Arsenal. They gift wrap goals for them, made it easy. Arsenal are a bloody good side. You can't get away from that. Like, Newcastle won't play many better sides this season, but to gift wrap particularly in the second half, where they dropped off and the intensity dropped, but they just gift wrap goals, and that surely brings one to. You were talking about Burn, and there's been a lot of focus on Burn, but what about the man who's been playing inside him, who I said on the live,
and our last video against Bournemouth.
Nottingham Forest was Nottingham Forest. I remember seeing him in Almiron. That was one of the worst performances I'd seen of the whole season. Sven Botman has just taken the crown there. Like, it was very poor. He looks like a lad who's lost all confidence in his game.
You've got the question: is he still carrying an injury?
Because
since that knee injury, and bear in mind, think about the way this knee injury came about. He actually played a game with an ACL injury, which again is astonishing. So he
not played two, did he? Not play in the Champions League?
He played against AC Milan. He was out. I'm sure it was AC Milan.
Yeah, it was 2 games. Yeah, sorry, it was AC Milan, Sheffield United, because that was his last game.
But he was outstanding in both games.
Well, I suppose.
It was bizarre.
It's never been the same since.
I know.
Have them missed a trick and not putting Sven Botman under the knife, because I don't know, maybe his knee is fine. Is it something in his head? But for me, I'm just trying to come up with reasons to why a player who was very, very good last year, played in the best defence, or was a joint best defence in the Premier League last season. How has he gone from here to here?
Well,
I find it astonishing.
I think teams are exploiting the massive weakness in his game. The weakness that everybody who'd watched him in France is probably the reason why a top club didn't sign him, and it was his lack of pace. And that was masked largely by a system that they had last season, with a personnel that worked really well in that system. He's literally been hung out to dry, like Burn was on his outside, like Bruno is in midfield with no legs in and around him, like Miley is at 17 years old, being asked to perform week in, week out, the same roles. And Sean Longstaff, who lacks quality in certain ways, but is a grafter and mostly works hard. There's too many holes in this team, far too many holes. And it comes back down to Eddie Howe for me. He's so determined in recent press conferences, which you guys are always in, so determined to own the transfer business that he's done at Newcastle United. And it always comes back down to it. Not good enough. Signed a left back who can't play because he doesn't trust him to play games. Signed a midfielder who can't play. Signed a winger whose output when he's played, he's been mostly injured. Even when his output when he's played hasn't been anywhere near, say, close to Anthony Gordon, who we already had in that position. Or, I mean, is it even the same as Anne St Maximin, who was there previously? I'm not even sure. Possibly slightly better. Who else did they sign? Livramento, a right back who's never played right back yet, barely, since he signed it.
Yeah.
It's just
future buys.
own that transfer window, and what he said was, I think he used a bit of correctors. Did he not say in time that'll be a great window?
Yeah. He even said it. About 2 weeks ago.
Well, if he's not careful and he signs too many players for the future, he might never see the fruits of that labour.
Yeah.
Because he needs players for now. He always needed players for now, because Newcastle United are not a team with the luxury to go and sign players for the future, because they didn't have a good enough team for there and now. They need to do it now. And they're relying on players now in that squad who are probably slightly lacking in certain ways. Miguel Almiron, Sean Longstaff. They're having to rely on the same players. Dan Burn, Fabian Schär. The two said this is the other thing that needs talked about. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing, or the way they're setting up, or just the rot setting in with goals being conceded like consistently. the two centre-halves form in recent weeks, both of them, shares dropped off a cliff as well.
Yeah.
Really has.
Yeah.
And the one, like you mentioned earlier, the one who probably has withheld a level of form has probably been Kieran Trippier.
Yeah, he's gone
fighting a
the
lone
opposite way
battle. He's
little
fighting a
bit,
lone
'cause he
battle
was-
though. Have they got no confidence in what's behind them, what's in front of them? Have they lost faith? And it's all right when systems and training processes are working well to have faith and have confidence, and you know the next man next to you, it's always going to work because it's been working for you. But what happens when it doesn't work? And that's Eddie Howe's problem. What happens when the plan that you had doesn't work? It ain't working. It hasn't worked for nigh on 4 months now, really. And even at the start of this season, the team of last season would have beat that. Newcastle were better last season than they've ever been at any point this season, in my opinion. I don't think they've ever been close to what they were last season. Flashes in games, the odd result probably at the start of the season, but they've not been as good. Anthony Gordon's sort of form, arguably being the player of the season, has probably masked that, and I thought I masked that a lot at the start of the season, how good form he was in, that they weren't as good as what they were last season. Where's the answers? Eddie Howe needs to find these answers, and he's got to... Look, there'll be a lot of people out there split by all of this, but ultimately all I care about, so all I'll ever care about really, is Newcastle United, and Newcastle United doing well and being successful. Ultimately, I don't really care who the owner is. I don't care who the managers are, or really who the players all are. I just want a black and white shirt to be lifting a trophy one day. I want Newcastle United to be successful. I want them to be moving forward in a direction we've been promised by the likes of Amanda Staveley. They're in reverse. They've been in reverse for 3 months now. And where's the stop? Where's the brakes? Eddie Howe's the only man who can press the brakes. He's the man with the management who's got all the players on side. He's got systems. He's trained. He's got all these badges. He's got years of experience. How do you put the brakes on? Why is it not happening?
I almost feel that there's an acceptance that there was always going to be a drop off this year, because I got that from the Amazon documentary where Dan Ashworth, who's obviously gone now, was talking about
The 16th drop off though.
Well, no.
You know what I mean?
But
Like,
yeah, no, it's a significant drop off. But they always planned for a drop off. It's almost like they've had a drop off and it's almost accepted.
If they keep this up over the next, how many, what's left? 12, 10?
They'll end up finishing bottom half.
They'll end up finishing close at a 16th in the World 4th.
Well, yeah.
Because they're really struggling. You look at the team they've got next week, Wolves, which these two games are massive, by the way.
Wolves
at home, who are a good side. And they played Newcastle off the park in large patches down there at Molineux. They're lucky to get a result, to be honest.
Yeah.
A couple of maybe questionable decisions, got a questionable penalty, a couple of little moments that Callum Wilson pounced on. But they were excellent. Chelsea are resurgent. We'll see how good they are in the cup final, which, you know, it all seems very silly talking about the idea of Europe and idea of, you know, moving upwards, because this team is really struggling in all departments. They've got a goalkeeper situation where it's clear none of them instill any confidence. That's maybe a bit unfair on Karius, because I think there's a good goalkeeper there. The defenders form has all dropped off a cliff at various points this season, and he's been really reluctant to change it. The midfield three are being flogged, as you said to him the other day.
You can't tell Eddie Howe that.
He didn't like the way of it, but he's flogged a 17-year-old boy.
Yeah, he's had no option.
He's had no option. Or has he?
Well, the change of system, which we were spoke about at the start, could he have done that?
Has he had an option? Possibly.
I think you raise a good point. Player who has been in very good form and dropped out the team through illness, I think, or through a slight injury, Jamal Lascelles, and just again isn't starting games. I mean, I think naturally if you've got Fabian Schär and Sven Botman fit, they would start, but Eddie Howe's always said, although has he always done it, played players based on form rather than any sort of loyalty. But I think we're seeing now Jamal Lascelles isn't getting a look in when maybe he should.
I think Lascelles should be playing. I think Schär should go back to the left-hand side. They went through that run and they got good results away from home and at home, and then that was probably, I mean, they did drop off a cliff as well, but it was, you know, injuries towards the end of it. But I think they were a better defensive unit when they had Lascelles on the right and Schär on the left. I mean, it's small little things.
Does
I mean,
it just come down to personnel, or is it
I don't know. I think
it's
it's a system thing. I think it's this rigid. It's very frustrating for me, actually, taking my journalist hat off and putting a fan one on. I find it all very frustrating, because I don't think Newcastle United have got the best personnel in the Premier League. I think the squad's probably about where they are, but they massively overperformed last season in that respect, and I think they've got it in them to overperform again. I think you can get much more out of this team than we're seeing at the moment. What we're seeing is surrender here today.
Well, it was
surrender full of
it was
errors,
a
and
yeah.
I mean, they just were never at the races. None of them were at the races. That's not a lack of effort. I never fault footballers' effort. I think they're always putting it in. They're always working hard. It was just a malaise about everything that they did the day against a good side. There's nothing wrong with that. Arsenal are good enough as it is that you don't need to gift wrap 3 points for them, and that's what they did today with just pathetic errors.
Arsenal took the foot of the gas in the second
did.
half. When Newcastle had their little spell, it was because Arsenal had done their job. And
They had, and all I had to do was wait for Newcastle to make mistakes. That's all they did. Just wait for them to make mistakes. Botman gifted another goal. Livramento was poor, I thought, for the Saka third one.
Yeah.
I thought he got turned inside out, and that's probably partly because he's playing on the wrong side, to be fair. He's not a left back.
Dan Burn would have stopped it.
He's done well at left back, but he ain't a left back, he's a right back.
Yeah.
A young one who's got a positive future ahead of him. But he's not a left back, and that can happen sometimes against some of the best, and let's be honest, you might have your doubts about Saka in certain respects, but he's one of the best in the Premier League in his position by no doubt at all.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Your description of Bukayo Saka before the game, which I thought, I don't know if we can say it, but...
Well, I look bloody stupid now, don't I? I've always said it though.
I said he'd score today because you've said that.
He's like he's got hints of a high-end Miguel Almiron about him.
Yeah.
I do like
more-
he's got more quality.
More quality
He has.
in and
Hope
around the
Arsenal-
box.
Hope all Arsenal fans watch this. And
But it's
pick
the
that up.
it's the very left foot come inside.
Yeah,
kinda-
I mean, he's got the same approach, just with
Yes.
a lot more quality.
He has.
Which I think is obviously a big difference between probably a world-class player and a player for Newcastle.
Is Miggy not world class? Like?
He was about 18 months
He
ago.
had 6 weeks of it. 6 weeks of it.
Yeah.
Right, we've been round the houses. Where we're going now?
It's getting
North-
late.
North London Pint. Will we even catch last orders? How late we are here?
The Emirates are starting a disco, but yeah, by the moment.
I know. Can you all see this? It's a beautiful sight.
Well, good news for you, Liam. You've 20th ground in the Premier League. That's a positive
yeah,
to take from the day.
It's my first time I've been to Emirates actually, because we don't normally get 2 Newcastle World tickets to me.
No, they're very strict.
So we got them today, so that's why you've got a full...
It's a classy gesture from Arsenal.
It is, I love the place. Brilliant. I'm coming again next year. Hopefully bring a bit more luck. Right. We'll be...
That it?
Yeah.
I don't think we've got much out of it.
No.
That was rubbish.
Blackburn.
It needs to get better.
Yeah, Blackburn.
Get on to Blackburn, come on, that's the big game.
Yeah, big game coming up against Blackburn. Chance to bounce back, but then
Oh, it just
If
feels
you-
so sad
if
saying
you
that though,
lose-
man.
If you lose that, it's then opinions. The tide almost turns. The momentum. We need.
They've got to go there and win. If they don't win, it's
It's a disaster. Isn't it?
it does, and I think we're at a funny moment, and I'm not going to go into any detail about it because you'll probably all feel it yourselves. You'll all know your true feelings on what's going on here, and I just feel like we're at a funny tipping point. Well, not quite the tipping point, but we're just in a little odd period where there's a lot of questions and there's not many answers, and it's how long is that allowed to carry on would be my thing. And that's not saying I think they should get rid of the manager, because I think the manager's got all the cards he needs in his own hands. If he's a top class manager, he turns this season around and it becomes respectable. When we're all standing here on one of our videos at Brentford on the last day of the season, when they've qualified for Europe and they've maybe gone to Wembley, maybe he's got to a cup final or a cup semi-final, it's all in Eddie Howe's hands. He can turn this around. We can't stand here. We're critical friends of Newcastle United. That's all we'll ever be. Like I say, I don't actually care whether Eddie Howe's here for 20 years or 20 days, ultimately, because I want Newcastle United to win games and I want them to win trophies. So it doesn't really matter who the man in the job is, as long as they're a winner and as long as they're positive and taking the club in the right direction. That isn't happening at the minute, but he's got the power to turn that around. Starting with Blackburn, like you said. But the key moments for me, even no matter what happens at Blackburn, is you've got Wolves and you've got Chelsea, 2 teams in and around you. You've got to go and beat Wolves at home, and they're a decent side, and you've got to go to Chelsea and get something. You need 4 points out the next 2 games, because this was a write-off probably anyway. Most of the time, even when you're playing well, you get beat here.
Yeah.
Point was the best we could have expected today, really.
They shot themselves in the foot, but realistically, if Newcastle United played home against Wolves how many goals they're going to need to score to win the game. I mean, it's a lottery at the minute. It's either going to be 2, 3 or 4. 2, 3 or 4, because they kind of keep clean sheets. They kind of keep it a 1. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of how bad they are defensively, having been so good.
I just feel like we're talking about the same things every video now.
I know,
it's
yeah.
Defensive. You went at the
Telma?
defensive performance last week.
Tell me, if you guys think we're just waffling
We are.
with the same rubbish week in, week out, do you like it? Do you like what we're saying?
But it reflects what's happening on the pitch. Newcastle
Yeah.
are waffling defensively,
Oh, the transition. Yeah.
if you can even say that. I don't even know what it
I
is.
wasn't shaking my head at you, I was just shaking my head at the whole situation.
No.
Right.
But what about the people who'll be like, but think about how far we've come. There'll be people in there, people watching this thinking that, oh, Liam, man, think of how far we've come. We were
I'm
fighting
sick of it.
relegation
No, I'm
2
not having
years ago.
that. I'm not having that. Why would anybody judge like
Do you want that
where they
figure?
want to go? Oh, keeping this in. Oh, keeping this in.
Yeah, well.
Right. Okay. Right. Why would anybody judge where you want to go on your past? Why would you do that? Surely you just look at the here and now and you say, I want to go there. You don't keep going patting yourself on the back, going, oh, we were so bad. We were so bad once. Look how good you are now. Well, we're not really much better, to be honest. First season of Eddie Howe, they finished 11th.
Yeah,
They're on course to finish about there again. So is that progress?
with a
A little flirtation with the Champions League and then back to where you came from.
No,
that's not progress.
Not at all.
That's unsustainable. It's rubbish, actually.
Yeah.
And I think
Well, it's just
having
what
spent
happened.
hundreds of millions in the interim period between that, it's not just staying still, it's going backwards, is very poor. So, but I said it's all in his hands. It's all in his hands. He can turn this around. Only he can turn it around, and his coaching staff. It's on them. And I hope we're not still saying this next week. And on Tuesday night, we'll all be at Blackburn. You applied?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we'll all be at Blackburn. And I hope we're not saying the same at St James's Park. As the tractors wheel past her and get the slightly different coloured lights out at St James's Park, we'll still be the last people in the ground. And I hope we're not having the same conversation where we're criticising defensive displays. I don't mind if they stink the place out and beat Wolves 1-0. It's just a season. It's a bit of a write-off season in some respects. It's not about how they go about things now and the style of it. They just need to do it. They just need to go and get points, win games. We're not really seeing any signs of that. It's the opposite, actually. They look the most easy to score against team in the Premier League, and they look very beatable. And I think most opposition managers will be thinking that.
Yeah. Stats don't lie.
yeah.
So come on,
Conceded
Eddie,
most goals this year.
sort it out.
Please.
Right.
Please.
I think that's good. Yeah, well, it's not good, but well done.
It's rubbish, but... Right. Good night from the Geordie Journos. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you like the comment. If you think we're talking rubbish, let me know. Right. See you guys. Presscon? I won't see you. I'll not see you
Yeah,
at
Monday.
I'll not see you at Blackburn, but these two guys will see you from the training ground on Monday, dissecting what Eddie's had to say. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.